sometimes if you've known someone forever, you fail to see the person they actually are now because you're really holding on to some idea of who they were at some much earlier point in their lives. And I think that can happen sometimes. And I think what can also happen is sometimes people will revert to behavior. You can be with, and I think particularly if you get a group of people together who were very young together, if they're adolescents together, suddenly you're all behaving like adolescents. Yeah. And it's very strange. But there is, I think, something really wonderful, and I think the older you get, the more you realize the value of having those people who have known you always, who know all your contexts. I think when you become, as I have, if you move from the country you grew up in somewhere else, I think there's a different layer than to have those childhood friends who have also moved and really do not need to have explained, what it was to be 14 in Karachi at a particular moment.
Yeah.
About 15 years ago, so I was, maybe more than that, I was doing book event in America at a university, and a student stood up, a woman, and asked a similar question about sort of, politics and why is there so much politics in the novel or something. Why in my novels politics seems to play such a role in people's personal lives. And I said to her, with no foreknowledge of the shape the world was going to take, but just reaching for an example, I said, well, if ever Roe v. Wade is overturned in America, you'll stop asking why politics is personal. Look, if there's one thing we recognized during COVID, it surely was how much power the governments around the world can exercise over our personal rights. Now, I'm not even asking what you think of what different governments did and how they did it, but it became clear that your government can say to you, you cannot leave your house. You cannot go to your father's funeral. You cannot go with your partner to get a scan when she's pregnant. You cannot get on a plane and fly to see the people you love. So that's politics. Yeah, very much. The world makes no sense. It's absolute chaos out there. It is totally, in any day, so many things are happening, right? And so the storytelling, it's what we're doing. Everyone is doing it all the time. You and I make a profession of it. But everyone is always constructing stories and narratives in order to make sense, in order to give priority to certain events in a day. What did you do today? Oh, nothing. Yes, you did. But some days it's, oh, nothing, and other days, what did you do today? Oh, I had this conversation. And then that conversation becomes the day, the marker of the day. We give it a different weight. That becomes the thing that we would write down, if we were to write it down. And so this whole idea of how we, as you say, self-narrativize, and where that comes from, the fact that, for anyone who has siblings, you can live in the same house as someone, and then one day you're sitting and you're talking about a moment in your childhood, and you suddenly realize you have completely different takes on it, and that perhaps you have completely different takes on what it meant to be the children of your parents, or who your parents were, or how you were raised, but certainly social construction is, because so much of our life is what we imagine is happening, or what we imagine might happen, or subtext that we're reading into things, or kind of conclusions we're going to have to race to, like what is the sound in that bag, and all those things. So much of our days is actually made up of guesswork.